Reddit's always been a wild place, sort of like a digital jungle. You can scroll through discussions on anything under the sun, cooking tips, conspiracy theories, or some stranger's shower thoughts. But there's also a corner of Reddit that feels off. A space filled with eerie, disturbing threads that leave you wondering what the hell is really going on out there. Welcome to the darker side of Reddit. Picture this. It is late, so late that even the crickets have gone quiet. The house is still, lit only by the flicker of reruns on television. That weird comfort you get from those late-night shows hums gently in the background. It feels strangely peaceful. I got off the couch to grab a cold drink from the fridge. I remember the floor creaked under my feet. I made it to the hallway, then suddenly, a scream, raw, animal-like, like someone was being torn apart. Someone was in serious trouble. Here's what happened. It was somewhere between 8:30 and 8:45 the evening when I pulled into my driveway. I had just gotten back from town after grabbing a six-pack. As I stepped out of the car, I noticed a strange sound. At first, I thought I had left the television on inside, and it was just the noise leaking out the windows. But as I walked toward the front of the car and hit the lock button on my key fob, it hit me those were not television sounds. They were screams. I froze. At first, I figured it had to be a prank, kids messing around or something, but then I heard it clear as day. A woman yelling, her voice filled with panic. "No, stop. You're hurting me. You're killing me." Right after that, a man started shouting something I could not make out. There was also the sound of a dog barking same direction, and this deep, repetitive thud, like someone was hitting something, or someone. I grabbed my phone and called 911. Even the dispatcher could hear the screaming through the line. They told me they would send someone out to check, but I waited an hour and no one showed up. Not a single patrol car. I was watching the whole time through my security feed. Later, I pulled up the footage. The back door camera is motion triggered, so it caught me stepping outside and making the call. You can faintly hear the screams in the background. My backyard camera, on the other hand, runs non-stop, so it recorded everything. The problem? The sound is mostly drowned out by the hum of the air conditioning unit. I did my best to clean up the audio, and I shared the clip online just hoping someone could help me figure out what to do. I even posted a link to the raw video in the cleaned-up version. You can clearly tell the screaming came from beyond my backyard, maybe 50 or 60 feet away, across a narrow field. On the far side, there's a rundown shack. I have seen a few cars parked out there on occasion. Whoever lives there, I do not know. But after what I heard, I really want to. I am 41 years old, and I have never experienced something so gut-wrenching in person. I have seen scary stuff in movies and online, but nothing compares to hearing that kind of fear in real life. It does not leave you. Now, I know a lot of people online chalk this kind of thing up to wildlife. Mountain lions, foxes, they can scream in ways that sound human. But I swear to you, this was not that. I have heard animal sounds before. This was a woman begging, pleading. And the worst part? No one did anything. What happened next still gives me chills. See, this whole thing did not feel like just some mistaken animal noise. It was not a fox yelping or a cougar screaming in the woods. I could understand the words. There was no guessing I heard a woman begging for her life. And that is what stuck with me. As the days went by, the story started gaining attention online, especially in the Reddit community that dives into real-life mysteries. A bunch of people in the Reddit Bureau of Investigation subreddit jumped in. Folks offered advice, shared theories, even dug up satellite images and old police call records. But here's where it gets weird. The police still did nothing. I talked to them again. I told them everything, walked them through what I saw, what I heard, showed them the security footage. They took down my statement, copied the videos, and told me they would send someone for a welfare check. But they also gave me a warning. They said, flat out, "Do not go near the property again or I would be cited for trespassing." Their exact words were, Let us handle it. So, what could I do? I backed off. I waited. I checked the local news. Every morning, I scanned the paper hoping for some kind of update, anything. But nothing came. And deep down, I had that sinking feeling, like I had just watched something terrible unfold and was now being told to pretend it never happened. But I did what I could. I reported it. I handed over the evidence, and I really hoped that it would not end badly. Time passed. I got back to my usual routine, but everything felt different. The quiet in the house now felt too quiet. The glow of the television seemed colder, like something dark was hanging over the neighborhood and only I knew it was there. Then, months later, something happened. I had made a post about it the year before about hearing a woman screaming near that old house across the field. Well, 2 months after that, I looked out my window one morning and saw the place swarming with sheriff's cruisers. Turns out the old man who lived there had died, gunshot wound. The police said he took his own life. His adult son was the one who made the 911 call. But that was not the end. Last week, while I was relaxing at home watching YouTube, I heard gunshots again. Now, I live out in the country, so that kind of sound is not rare. Folks hunt, go target shooting, I did not think much of it. But this time, it was different. The son, that same guy who said his dad shot himself, had now killed his own mother. He is saying it was self-defense, but the authorities are charging him with murder. And here is the kicker, my security system picked up the whole thing. You can hear the shots. You can hear the chaos. And you can even see the car he used to drive away from the scene. Detectives have been coming by all week, collecting footage. They told me they are now reopening the father's death investigation. They think the son might have killed both of them. That is right, the guy might have murdered his father, lied about it, and then months later, killed his mother too. They are calling him a family annihilator. It eats me up inside, because I tried. I really did. If anyone had just taken my report seriously just once, maybe those lives could have been saved. The police brushed me off, told me to stay out of it. But now, 2 people are dead. And Lord only knows what that poor woman went through in those final months, trapped in that house with her own son. There is a silence in this kind of story, not the eerie kind, but the kind that makes you angry, the kind that makes you feel like justice showed up way too late. As far as I know, the man behind all this, Tim Johnson Jr., is still locked up, waiting for trial. He is facing a potential sentence of 15 years to life. He eventually confessed to murdering his mother. But to this day, he keeps insisting that his father died by suicide. Honestly, that is pretty hard to believe. After everything that happened, after everything that came out, that claim just does not sit right. Not with me, not with the detectives, not with anyone following this story. Because at the end of the day, no sentence, no courtroom, no jail time is going to bring back the lives that were taken. 2 people are gone. 2 lives ripped away, likely without even the chance to fight back. It makes me sick. It truly does. Because the worst part is knowing this all could have been stopped. If they had listened to my first call, if they had watched that footage closely, if they had knocked on that door and really looked around instead of brushing it off, maybe, just maybe, none of this would have happened. All right, now before we go any further into this story, I want to take a second to talk about something important, your privacy online. We are living in a world that is more connected than ever, and while that can be a great thing, it also comes with risks. Stuff like identity theft, credit card fraud, your personal info being leaked without you even knowing about it. That is why I started using a service called Incogni. Incogni works behind the scenes to find websites that have your private data and sends legal requests to get it removed. They stay on it constantly. Every time they find something sketchy, they take action on your behalf. And for me, that brings a whole lot of peace of mind. It is super easy to set up, their dashboard is clean and simple, and it finally feels like I have some control over where my information goes. If you care about protecting your identity, I highly recommend checking them out. Anyway, let us get back to the story. It is late at night again. You check into a Super 8 motel just outside of town. The place is quiet. Feels like nothing could go wrong. You kick off your shoes, order some pizza, and flip on the television to keep yourself company. Just a little noise to break the silence. You start clicking through the channels. One by one, nothing out of the ordinary. Until television static crackles. On your screen appears a channel that should not exist. No guide info, no number, just a face, a pair of eyes, staring at you. Let me know if you'd like to continue the story from here or want to keep building into this next eerie narrative thread. There was a face. A man's face, just sitting there buried deep in static. No movement, no blinking, no noise, just watching. It gave me goosebumps. Who was he? Why was he there? And how the hell did he even end up on the screen? The screen snapped off. It was around 11 p.m. on the 4th of September, 2022, when this strange thing started spreading online. A buddy of mine sent me a video from his hotel room. He was staying at a Super 8 somewhere off the interstate, just trying to relax for the night. He had been flipping through the channels, just killing time, when something weird happened. His hotel television was supposed to have channels 1 through 68, your usual lineup of news, reruns, and static. But somehow, he stumbled onto channel 73, a channel that should not exist. In the top corner of the screen, it said Plus Television, apparently a defunct Finnish broadcaster that went off the air years ago. The image? A single man's face, surrounded by static. No sound, no movement. Just frozen there on screen. He was using a Samsung television. We checked everything, the settings, the source, the guide. It made no sense. Channel 73 did not even show up in the menu. He sent over a photo of the television guide to prove it only went up to 68, and he even recorded a clip of him flipping through the stations just to show that this wasn't some glitch or overlay. He really landed on something that was not supposed to be there. And the thing that freaked me out the most, no one could explain it. I reached out to a few people online, a couple friends. None of them had ever seen anything like it. We checked Reddit, we searched Google. There were no known cases, no stories, nothing even remotely close. It was like the channel came from another reality. One of the Reddit users commented something like, "That video is mad creepy. I'd shut the television off and get the hell out of there." Another joked, "Now I'm worried this is going to turn into some ring curse thing." Someone else guessed it might be Pluto television or a streaming signal that somehow got scrambled onto the television. But nobody could say for sure. Everyone just had the same question. What the hell was that? That night, my buddy posted an update. He was lying in bed at the hotel, scrolling through his phone. It was well past midnight. He said he was probably just overtired, but he could swear he saw the shadow of someone sitting at the edge of the bed, right there at his feet. Of course, no one was there when he looked up, but still, that moment stuck with him. He wrote, "I know I need to sleep. Maybe I'm losing it. If I'm dead in the morning, well, damn. I'm checking the television again in the morning. After that, I'm out of here." Before turning in, he checked the channel one last time. Still the same. Same face, same static, same cold silence. And then the night passed. And just like that, it was over. Or so we thought. Theories came pouring in. People started talking about old analog feeds, placeholder screens, and scrambled channels. Of course, with the internet being what it is, there were just as many skeptics as believers. Some folks were convinced this was real, others were sure it was just another online hoax, a live-action roleplay that would fade into the digital void like 1,000 others before it. But my friend, the guy staying in the motel, tried to move on. He went to bed that night doing his best to shake it off, told himself it was probably just a glitch or some bizarre prank, maybe something he ate messing with his brain. But the next morning, the face was still there. He managed to record more video and snap some photos from different angles, but he could not post them all right away. His phone data was running low, and he did not have access to his laptop at the time. He promised he would share the rest later when he could upload from a computer. He also dropped one important detail: the exact motel. It was a Super 8-inch Barrie, Ontario room 404. He said, "If anyone wants to waste a little cash and check it out for themselves, be my guest. I'm leaving now." That was it. But the weird did not stop there. Just as people were digesting the frozen face mystery, another story emerged, this one even stranger. Somebody else reported turning to a random channel in a different motel room, and instead of finding static or programming, they saw a live feed of a toilet. Yeah, a real toilet. No sound, no movement, just a camera fixated on a bathroom. It did not change, it did not go anywhere. It just sat there on screen for over 30 minutes. That story caught fire too. The guest told staff about it. The feed disappeared shortly afterward. The police got involved, but big surprise, nothing came of it. No one could explain it. No one ever found out where it came from. Now, to be fair, these kinds of things, they are not that hard to fake. If someone really wanted to mess with people, it would not take much. You could shoot a creepy video in a couple minutes, plug your laptop into the HDMI port, and loop it. Boom. Instant creep out. So yeah, it is entirely possible these were just pranks, or attempts to go viral. But what if they weren't? Let's walk through the more logical possibilities. Motel televisions usually run on closed distribution systems. That means all the TVs pull from a centralized source, often Dish Network, DirecTV, or something similar. The signal gets split across all the rooms through internal wiring. Sometimes, the system still holds onto old channel designations, even ones that no longer sync with the provider, so you could, in theory, stumble across a ghost channel, a frozen screen, an old feed left in limbo. And that might explain why Channel 73 was still tied to Plus Television even though that Finnish broadcaster has been gone for years. Still, none of that explains the face. Why was it that image? Why was it still? And why was it broadcasting? No one had answers. Then someone online chimed in. "Hey, OP, I think I know exactly what this island." Not long after the thread picked up traction, someone jumped in with a theory that chilled me, not because it was unbelievable, but because it was too believable. They said that back in the day, when analog television signals were everywhere, there used to be this underground hobby known as television pirating. Basically, tech-savvy folks, often called nerds with too much free time, would hijack low-frequency channels that no one was using and broadcast their own content through the airwaves. Anything from music to symbols, to full-on home-recorded clips, you name it. And the creepy part, some of them still do it. The guy who posted said he used to mess with pirate radio and television back in Topeka, Kansas. He explained that even though it's tougher to pull off nowadays with signal tracking, automatic shutdowns, and stricter regulations, it is still possible if you know what you're doing. Most modern pirates use systems like Hack TV, which lets you send analog-style broadcasts through coaxial setups. Perfect for, say, motel TV still running on outdated internal wiring. He said pirates often test their signals by broadcasting basic visuals, static, strange symbols, cryptic angles like 45 and 85-degree stuff only other pirates would recognize. It's almost like an inside joke between people in the know. So, going by that theory, it's entirely possible that someone inside the hotel, maybe a staff member, maybe a guest, tapped into the building's cable system and broadcasted the face to every room. That idea hit hard. Because if that's what really happened, Then someone purposely sent that image to TVs all across the hotel, and my friend just happened to be the only one online talking about it. Now that's what bugs me. How is it that in a big hotel like that, only one person noticed? No one else posted videos, no one else brought it up, not a single news story, just one thread on Reddit's paranormal board. If it was real, where were the other witnesses? Did people notice and just brush it off? Did someone call the front desk and it was quietly handled? Or maybe everyone else just tuned in to the usual 68 channels and never thought to go higher. Still, I can't shake that feeling, that gut-level wrongness of it. Reminds me of old broadcast intrusions like the Max Headroom incident, or weird signals like 96.7 and that haunting HBO satellite hack. There's just something incredibly unsettling about a total stranger reaching out through static, through your screen, not to speak to you, but to stare at you. That sort of thing stays with you. Who was the man in the image? Why that face? Why that night? And if it was a pirate, was it just a joke? Or was it something else? If you recognize that face, if you've seen that image anywhere else, please let me know. Because tonight, it feels like we are watching a brand new internet mystery start to unfold. The deeper I dug into this, the stranger it got. I started noticing something off in the comment sections of the few posts I could find. The replies about Christopher Morris, the boy who supposedly died in that horrifying way, all sounded too similar. Like they were written by the same person, or maybe even bots. Same phrasing, same rhythm, same vague tone, like they were trying to sound emotional without saying anything real. And while it's not unheard of for people to come forward in threads like these claiming they knew the victim or had some connection, these comments didn't feel right. Something was off. Some folks started saying the entire case might be a hoax, kind of like the Red Spider murders that made their rounds in true crime forums years ago. Those turned out to be pure fiction, a made-up story by author Colin Wilson that slipped its way into real discussions and fooled a lot of people. Could this be the same thing? I mean, how is it that there's almost no record of Christopher Morris's death online? No news articles, no obituaries, nothing but scattered blog posts and strange Reddit threads? The original story goes like this. Back in September of 2000, in Wichita Falls, Texas, on Shepherd Air Force Base, a young boy named Christopher Morris was found dead inside a dishwasher. He was naked. His body was trapped inside. To this day, no suspect was ever named. No one was arrested. No justice came from it. But here's the thing, as horrifying as that sounds, hardly anyone seems to know about it. And the few places that mention the story, they all link back to a single source, a tiny article from the Shepherd Senator, the Air Force Base's local paper. Tucked away in a forgotten October issue, that one piece is the only thing anyone's been able to track down that confirms the story ever happened. Now let me ask you this. If a child was found dead in such a brutal and bizarre way on a US military base, no less wouldn't that make national news? Wouldn't there be television coverage, online archives, maybe even true crime documentaries? Instead, what we have is a mystery, a real, quiet one. I kept digging and stumbled across a blog called the Penile Code Avenger. Strange name, but their mission seemed sincere. Started in the early 2000s, it was run by activists trying to bring attention to domestic abuse cases. They shared studies, survivor stories, and advocacy work. Then, out of nowhere, on May 17th, 2005, they posted something that stood out. A quiet, almost clinical article pulled from Newswise talking about unusually high child mortality rates on military bases. There was no commentary, no explanation. Just the post, dropped into the void. Why did they share that? Why no follow-up? Normally, that would be the end of it. A sad coincidence in an obscure blog. But the reason I bring all this up, the reason I can't let it go, is because of what happened after. You see, I used to live in Wichita Falls, not far from the base, Spent a good chunk of my childhood there before moving back to Oklahoma. And while I was there, I never heard a single whisper about a kid dying in a dishwasher. Not from neighbors, not from teachers, not from anyone on the base. It was like the whole thing had been swallowed up, covered, erased, or buried under so much red tape that no one even knew it happened. But now, I'm not so sure. Because stories like these, the ones that barely make it to daylight, they're often the ones hiding something real. Shepherd Air Force Base, Wichita Falls, Texas. That place keeps coming up, and every time it does, the story gets darker. I stumbled on a thread recently. It was buried deep in an old blog, one mostly focused on domestic violence and child advocacy. Nothing out of the ordinary at first glance. But the comment section? That is where things took a turn. People started sharing what they claimed to remember. One comment described a case from a few years ago, a little boy, maybe 5, 6, 7 at most. He had been found inside a dishwasher, not just hidden, but run through a full cycle. The child had been tortured, sexually assaulted, and murdered before being placed inside. The dishwasher was believed to be used to clean the crime scene, to literally wash away the evidence. The most chilling part? After one brief local news report, the story disappeared. Vanished from public record. No follow-ups, no national outrage, just silence. Another commenter, also from Wichita Falls, recalled that the boy was often left alone at home, a so-called latchkey kid. They said when the father came home, he immediately knew something was wrong. The dishwasher racks had been removed and were lying in the middle of the kitchen floor. That is when he found his son. They mentioned rumors of older kids harassing the boy in the weeks leading up to the incident. That authorities had supposedly questioned everyone coming in and out of the base. But ultimately, nothing ever came of it. Then things got even more personal. A wave of replies came from people claiming to know the boy Christopher Morris. One said they were his best friend, that they were 11 at the time, the same age as him, and had lived just down the street. They swore Christopher's dad didn't do it, no matter what anyone said. That he loved his son. Someone else claimed to be Christopher's cousin, Brittany Schultz. She left a real name, an email, asked for updates. Said the family still hadn't gotten justice. And then came a comment signed by Christopher's mother. Short, devastating. I miss him each and every day. There was one more voice, a woman named Courtney, who said she had been stationed at Shepherd Air Force Base when it all happened. According to her, she lived just 2 houses away. And then, silence again. Just like the original case, the comments eventually stopped. No one responded to Brittany. No one confirmed anything. Just scattered voices, left drifting in an old blog's comment section like ghosts. There is something deeply unsettling about all this. I do not know how else to put it. This wasn't a true crime forum. This wasn't a dedicated page for unsolved cases. It was a small blog with one post about child deaths on military bases, and suddenly, an entire storm of personal memories, names, grief, and pleas for answers just spilled out beneath it. It felt wrong, like I was reading something I wasn't supposed to see, like I had cracked open a door that had been nailed shut for years. And the thing is, no one's talking about this case. You search for Christopher Morris dishwasher online, and it's always the same handful of fragments. No news archives, no photos, no follow-up reports. Only that single local newspaper article and a bunch of raw, emotional, scattered comments. And maybe that's why it haunts me so much. Not because of what happened, but because of how quiet it became. The deeper I went into the rabbit hole, the more surreal it all became. Comment after comment, dozens of them kept repeating the same themes. Sorrow, memory, claims of personal connection, but they all had a strange uniformity, almost like they had come from one person, or from a group of people all trying to tell the same version of a story. Or maybe, just maybe, trying too hard to convince us it was real. And yet, if it wasn't real, why did it feel so authentic? Many of the usernames were tied to hastily made accounts. Most had been created just after the blog post went up. They left one message, then vanished, never commented again. No replies, no updates. Just one post like a flare fired into the sky that no one ever saw. One name that stood out was Shelby, the so-called best friend of Christopher. They claimed to have known him personally, and even dropped a link to a blog, riptochristopher.blogspot.com. But that trail, like everything else in this story, led nowhere. No archive, no snapshots, no content. Just a ghost link buried deep in a 2005 comment section, forgotten and untouched. A part of me wants to believe it was his family, that they were just trying anything to get someone to remember him. But another part of me fears something even more tragic. Because if these really were his family, if the voices in those comments were the only ones still carrying Christopher's story, then it was not a hoax. It was a cry for help. A desperate plea in the early internet days, long before viral hashtags or cold case podcasts, when all you could do was leave your pain in a comment box and pray that someone, anyone, would listen. But something about those emails, it just gnawed at me. They were all oddly formatted, names with random numbers and underscores. Some usernames didn't match the names they claimed in their posts. Even the writing style stiff, awkward, too polished in some places just felt off, like someone was trying to sound like someone else, or trying too hard to get details right. Were they role-playing? Were they impersonating a grieving family? Or was this a real case, a very real, very tragic story that someone latched onto, trying to bring it back into the light the only way they knew how? We'll likely never know. Blogspot wasn't built to last. Old posts rot, links die, comments get wiped. And with no real media coverage, Christopher Morris's story seems to have been swallowed up by time, frozen in some dark corner of the web, only whispered through dusty comment threads and forgotten blogs. He died before his life ever truly began, and hardly anyone remembers. Not the news, not the base, not the justice system, just scattered memories, anonymous voices. And maybe that's the most haunting part of all. If the case is still unsolved and if the evidence is still sitting somewhere in a file box, forgotten, we can only hope someone someday takes another look. Because someone out there knows. Someone out there knows exactly what happened in that house, on that base, in that kitchen. Who placed Christopher Morris inside that dishwasher? Why? And how was it allowed to vanish into silence? Reddit. A place with a thread for everything from baking tips to urban legends to digital ghosts. And once in a while, it unearths a story so strange, so tragic, so buried, you wonder if it was ever supposed to be found. The internet has always been a gathering place, a digital campfire for strangers to share stories, memories, and fears. But with each passing day, that fire seems to flicker, a little darker. Tonight, we explored 3 unsettling cases that slipped through the cracks, each one raising more questions than answers. I hope you found them as chilling and fascinating as I did. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there. And remember, some stories don't stay buried forever. Until next time.